on the material path. The Krishna conscious person, however, avoids such sacrifices. He takes directly to Krishna consciousness and thereby prepares himself to return to Godhead. Impersonalist commentators on the Gita unreasonably assume that Brahman, Shri Krishna Rukmini Satyabhama ki. Impersonalist commentators on the Gita unreasonably assume that Brahman takes the form of Jiva in the material world, and to substantiate this, they refer to chapter 15, verse 7 of the Gita. But this verse also speaks of the living entity as an eternal fragment of myself. The fragment of God, the living entity, may fall down into the material world, but the Supreme Lord, Achyuta, never falls down. Therefore, this assumption that the Supreme Brahman assumes the form of Jiva is not acceptable. It is important to remember that in Vedic literature, Brahman, the living entity, is distinguished from Parabrahman, the Supreme Lord. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjanachalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mokam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Today, in the morning, in Udupi, many of you would have heard about Udupi. Udupi is famous for what? Krishna temple, right? So in Udupi, in the Krishna temple, there is one matha. There are Ashtamatas in Udupi, established by Madhvacharya. They take turns in worshipping the Krishna in the Udupi Krishna temple. So in one of the mathas, there was a program organized to celebrate the conferring of the title of Vishwaguru on Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada was conferred with the title Vishwaguru by the Akhil Bharatiya Akhada Parishad this year in around February, on February 10th of 2025. So this Akhil Bharatiya Akhada Parishad conferred the title of Vishwaguru on Srila Prabhupada during Kumbh Mela in February. So celebrating that, there was an event which was organized by one of the Ashtamatas in Udupi. So the Sugunendra, His Holiness Sugunendra Tirtha Swamiji, he, in his matha, this event was organized. And one of the saints from the Niranjini Akhada, who actually headed the whole initiative to confer the title of Vishwaguru on Srila Prabhupada. His name is His Holiness Girichananji Maharaj. He had also come, and the event took place in the midst of all chanting of various mantras, and so many people had come, and the event was well attended by many devotees. Almost more than 1,000 people had participated. So Kailashananji Giri Maharaj, he was the person who was the main person. So he has his ashram in Haridwar. So he had come all the way from Haridwar to participate in this program. And from our side, of course, His Grace Madhu Pandit Prabhu, His Grace Chanchalapati Prabhu, and His Grace Jai Chaitanya Prabhu, and His Grace Vasudekesha Prabhu, they were also there. And the program went off very nicely. So you see how the saintly people, sadhus, they had all assembled. An event was going on in Udupi. Simultaneously, some other event in some other part of the country, some politicians, they are planning. Next year, elections are going to happen in Tamil Nadu. So what should be the strategy? They are having meetings, they are holding their plans. Then there is somebody planning to release a movie to propagate their message. You know, they have become propaganda vehicles. So, you know, somebody wants to propagate some message, so they are going to release one movie on Pongal Day, so they are talking about that. Somewhere, some sports event is happening. You know, like this, in the whole world, if you see, everybody is active, everybody is working. There are spiritualists, sadhus, they are working for something. The politicians are working for something. Sports people are working for something. The students, they are working for something. Teachers are working for something. Everybody, some work or the other, they are doing. Now, interestingly, if you see in the Bhagavad-Gita, the 3rd chapter and the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna talks a lot about Karma Yoga. How to perform activities, duties, right? So, anyway, people are engaged in activity. So, why so much emphasis on work? How to perform the work? In what state of mind one should work? Why so much emphasis on that? So, without Bhagavad Gita also, people are working. Politicians are working, businessmen are working, students are working, teachers are working, scientists are working, army people are working, terrorists are also working, everybody is working without having to read the Bhagavad Gita, right? Then why Krishna is talking about work so much? Actually, if you see, activity is the inherent nature of a living person, living entity. Dead matter cannot be active. It is only a living person who can be active. And although the characteristic of the living entity is to be active, now in what work that living entity engages that propensity to be active carries a lot of significance. Animals are also active. Plants, you know, although they may not be moving, but still so much activity is going on. Photosynthesis is going on. The plants and trees are inhaling carbon dioxide, giving out oxygen. So much activity is going on. The roots, they are absorbing the water and the nutrients from the soil, and the trees are producing flowers, fruits. So much activity even in the plants and animals is also going on. I mean, even in the plants and trees also it's going on. Animals also, birds, fishes, all are active. Not just human beings alone. All living entities are active. But if we look at living entities other than human beings, their primary field of activity is only 4. There are only 4 fields of their activities. What are those 4 fields? Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya, Maithuna. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending. These are the only 4 fields of activity for every living entity other than human beings. Now, in the human form of life, what happens is, we have an ability to choose what kind of activity we want to do other than this eating, sleeping, mating and defending. We can choose to do some activity beyond this also. When a human being performs an activity, unlike the activities of the plants, animals, insects, etc., as Krishna is saying here in today's verse, in response, saying, Bhuta bhavodbhava karo visargaha karma sanjnitaha. Karma, when a human being performs karma, what does it result in? It results in Bhuta Bhava Udbhava Karaha Visargaha. Bhuta means the living entity. Bhuta Bhava Udbhava. So, Bhuta Bhava means the birth of the living entity. Birth, growth, maintenance, then finally, slowly, the living entity will degrade and finally die. 6 kinds of transformations. Shad Vikara, every living entity undergoes. So, Bhuta Bhava, the birth of the living entity, its various activities, its growth, its maintenance, its degradation, finally its death. All those things. Bhuta Bhava Udbhava. It is brought into existence. Udbhava means to take birth. So, every living entity's constant birth and maintenance and dying is constantly going on. And what is creating that? Bhuta Bhava Udbhava Karaha. The activities of the living entity are causing its particular birth in a particular body, and according to the body that the living entity has taken, the set of activities is also determined. If a living entity gets a dog's body, then a dog has certain kind of activities. If a living entity gets the body of a human, then another set of activities. So, this creation of the body, the creation of the circumstances by which we have to take birth in different bodies, is caused by what? Bhuta Bhavodbhava Karaha. Our activities, karma sanjnitaha. Our activities called karma, what are they resulting in? They are resulting in our repeated birth. Sometimes as a human being, sometimes as an animal, sometimes as a devata, sometimes as an insect. Like this, different births we are taking. And what is the cause of those births? The cause of the birth is our karma, our activities. Bhuta Bhavodbhava Karo Visarga Karma Sanjnitaha. But what is the nature of the living entity? Nature of the living entity is, Krishna is saying in this verse, Aksharam Brahma Paramam. The living entity is called Brahman, and its characteristic is, it is Akshara. Akshara means something which can be destroyed. Everything in the material world that we see is destructible. It is Kshara. Nothing is eternal. Even the earth has got a certain lifespan. Sun also has got a certain lifespan. The scientists tell after so many millions of years the sun will get destroyed. So everything has a certain life. Everything is Kshara. And that is why we also perform some activities, eventually old age, and we will die. But Krishna is saying, no, that's not the nature of the living entity. Living entity is Aksharam Brahma Paramam. The living entity is Akshara. He will not die. The body may die, but living entity will not die. That is why Krishna already told in the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, Deyino Smunyata Dehe Kaumaram Yavanam Jara Tatha Dehantara Prapti Dhiras Tatra Namuhyati. Krishna already told, within this same lifetime, we are changing so many bodies. Body of the child, body of the baby, body of the child, body of the young person, body of the old person. So many bodies we are changing. But we are not changing. So that means body can undergo transformation, but we don't undergo transformation. So, although body may be destroyed, the living entity will not be destroyed. Therefore, the living entity is Akshara. Akshara means without destruction. And Aksharam Brahma Paramam, not only is the living entity, not only are we not destroyable, we are also Paramam, we are transcendental. Transcendental meaning we are not supposed to be subjected to this cycle of repeated birth, death, disease, old age. Currently, what are we thinking? All of us think once we are born, we have to die someday. Everybody dies, I will also die. So why think about it? Forget it. And enjoy life. Eat, drink, and be merry. But eating, drinking, and being merry is not going to stop your death. Real fact is, Krishna is saying, body dies, but you are not suffered death, disease, old age. You are Paramam, you are supposed to be transcendental. You are supposed to be able to lead an eternal life, free from disease, free from old age, free from death, free from repeated birth. That's your real nature. But at the present moment, what is happening? Karma sanjnitaha, because you are engaged in material activities, bhuta bhavod bhavakaro visargaha. It is causing you. But what is the reality? If you engage in a certain kind of activities, karma sanjnitaha, then you will be creating a situation where you have to take repeated birth in this material world. On the other hand, there is another kind of activity which is called akarma. If you perform akarma, then what happens? You are going to again take repeated birth, death, disease and old age. You can go back to your original nature. What is your original nature? Aksharam Brahma Paramam. And not only are you Aksharam Brahma Paramam, Swabhavo Adhyatma Muchyate. You have an eternal nature also. We all know everybody has a nature, right? Somebody is very short-tempered. What will we say? Somebody, he goes and fires, we'll tell him, don't worry, yaar, his nature is like that. Right? And somebody is very affable. We will say he is a very friendly person, very good-natured person he is. Very good-natured, very helping, very warm, good-natured person, right? So we all understand that we acquire certain natures within this material world. But that nature also changes according to the body. When we get a man's body, we have a certain nature. Woman's body is certain nature. Animal body is certain nature. And within this life also our nature changes. When we are children, our nature will be of one kind. When we grow up into adults, nature will change. If I grow up into a 25-year-old man and I still behave like a 5-year-old kid, what will happen? People will say, poor fellow, mentally retarded. Right? That's all people will say. So why? Because my nature, when I have an adult body, is supposed to be different from the nature when I have as a child's body. So when the body changes, nature also changes. But Krishna is saying here, Swabhavo Adhyatma Muchyate. All of us have an eternal nature, which is not manifest now, which is covered now. Why is that eternal nature covered? Because Bhuta Bhavod Bhavakaro Visarga Karma Sanjitaha. Because we are engaged in material activities. So you see, material activities, how detrimental they are for us. They are first of all causing our and old age within the material world. Over and above that, what is happening? Aksharam Brahma Paramam. Aksharam, our nature to be not destroyed, it is getting covered and we are thinking, oh, I have to die one day. I'll become old one day. I will become diseased one day. We become fearful. So our Akshara nature is got covered, because of which we become fearful in this material world. And Paramam, we are supposed to be transcendental. We are not supposed to be subjected to birth, death, disease and old age. But we have become encaged like that. So you see how karma is forcing us. And over and above that, Swabhavo Adhyatma, we have forgotten our eternal nature also. Sometimes we behave as small kids. Sometimes we behave as young people. Sometimes we behave as old people. What are you? What is your nature? So our eternal nature is covered. Our transcendental position is covered. Our non-destructible characteristic has got covered. Our eternal blissful life, existence has got covered by repeated birth, death, disease and old age within the material world. All because of what? Of one thing. Karma sanjita life. You see how very we are putting ourselves into so much suffering simply because of engaging in material activities. But in the human form of life, we can engage in other kind of activities. That is why you will see in the material world, you will find all kinds of people, politicians, there will be businessmen, there will be vast majority of the people are engaged in all material activities. But you see, there are one set of people who understand that karma sanjnitaha, this karma is not a good thing. So what do? They become saintly people. That is how we are saying in Udupi today, So many saintly people have got together and they are glorifying Prabhupada. Why? Because Prabhupada has shown the way how to come out of this karma sanjita, which is creating that Aksharam Brahma Paramam has been converted into Kshara Brahma. That's our current situation. Swabhavo Adhyatmam we have forgotten. Bhuta Bhava Udbhava Karaha. And we are subjected to repeated birth within this material world. So Prabhupada has shown us what kind of activity we perform by which we can overcome all these things and we can be re-established in our original spiritual nature, engaged in eternal activity and without having to take repeated birth and death and undergo disease within the material world. And what is that activity? Very simple. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, we can come back to our Aksharam Brahma Paramam Swabhavo Adhyatmam. We can come to that state. So whoever gives this kind of knowledge, isn't that person to be greatly glorified? And Prabhupada is giving us that kind of knowledge. They have got together and they are glorifying Prabhupada. Prabhupada did not do any material activity. He did not invent some great atom bomb. He did not create some material, political party by which some certain kind of, agenda is put forth. He did not do all those things. What he showed was how to give a permanent solution to material life. Karma sanjnata, alternative to karma sanjnata. Otherwise, everybody by default is engaged in material activities. Karma sanjnata. And so Prabhupada was the one who came and showed, no, there is something other than this, which you can do, which will give you eternal benefit. And so therefore, Srila Prabhupada is to be glorified. And that activities in the material world will bind us to repeated birth, death, disease and old age, and it will cover our swabhava, and it will prevent us from living a life of our position of akshara and parama. So to be able to come to that understanding, to know about this, unless we take shelter of a pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, it is not possible. So therefore, we should take shelter of a lotus feet, of a pure devotee, of a Sadguru, of a Acharya like Srila Prabhupada. We have to follow his instructions and serve Krishna under his instructions. Then we can come to our original, eternal nature. I will stop here. Srimad-Bhagavad-Gita ki jai, Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Satya Bhama Krishna Rukmini Jaya Satya